Hi kids! Welcome to our Module 2 Day 1 session in English 7. Join me to uncover the selection which entitles My Father Goes to Court by Carlos Bulosan. And for our lesson objectives, you'll be able to use one schema to better understand the text, use appropriate words and expression to complete an analogy, scan the selection for specific details, and read intensively to obtain answers to specific questions. Module 2 features literature from the period of emergence. Let's have fact or bluff. With the statements that follow, identify if they are true or false. Fact if you think it is true, or bluff if the statement is false. And then push your luck. The Spanish soldiers conquered the Philippines. Is it fact or bluff? Okay, it's correct. Many Filipinos suffered because of the soldiers who invaded our country. The English language was widely used in writing during this period. Writers are concerned with the social well-being of the Filipinos. Fact or bluff? Okay, it's a fact. It was a very fruitful year because every Filipino became rich. Fact or bluff? Bluff. Movies became popular during this period. An emerging change. It's the period in Philippine literature when foreign people invaded our country. During the period of emergence, Japan invaded the Philippines, leading to the destruction of buildings. In this period, movies became popular, replacing Zarzuela. The English language was widely used by the writers. Carlos P. Romulo was one of the famous writers during this period. And it was during the period of emergence, people at present understand, accept, value diverse backgrounds, where we can thrive in this ever changing society. That's why we're all in this together. Okay? My Story Goes to Court by Carlos P. Bulosan. The story is set in a city in the Philippines. My Father Goes to Court by Carlos Bulosan. Again and again, the story is set in a city in the Philippines. Carlos Sampayan Bulosan was a Filipino novelist and poet born on November 2, 1911, who came from Pangasinan, Philippines. Carlos, as a young narrator, begins by describing his large family. They are poor, they are full of mischief and laughter. The children are all strong and healthy, even though they often go hungry. Now let's have this one vocabulary exercise. So, given with the courtroom personnel, look for a synonymous word. Given with the courtroom personnel, look for a synonymous word. Judge, accuser, transcriber, mediator, clerk. Correct, mediator. A person who is in charge of a court law. Secretary, transcriber, mediator, clerk, offender. Very good. It's clerk, an official in an organization who is responsible for writing notes about what happens at meetings and sending official letters. Complainant, accuser, transcriber, mediator, clerk. Accuser, a person who makes a formal complaint in law court that they have been harmed by someone else. Defendant, transcriber, mediator, clerk, offender. Okay, offender. A person in a court of law who is accused of having done something wrong. Lastly, stenographer, accuser, transcriber, mediator, clerk. Correct. Transcriber, a person who does shorthand or system of fast writing in an office or record speech using special machine in a court. Now let's begin our literary journey. Let me read to you the selection, and then in between you have to answer the questions that follow, and you have to take note with the details. Now, these rich man servants were always frying and cooking something good, and the aroma of the food wafted down to us from the windows of the big house. We hung about and took all the wonderful smell of the food into our beings. There were days when the rich man appeared at the window and glowered down at us. He looked at us one by one as though he were condemning us. We were all healthy because we went out in the sun every day and bathed in the cool water of the river that flowed from the mountains into the sea. We were always in the best of spirits, and our laughter was contagious. Laughter was our only health. Take time to take note, and then later, let's proceed. Let's stop and then reflect. What did the family do when the rich man's servants were frying and cooking? What did the family do when the rich man's servants were frying and cooking? To answer, I want you to arrange the words to make it a sentence. Again, arrange the words to make it a sentence. They would hang about outside the window and smelled the aroma of the food. They would hang about outside the window and smell the aroma of the food. Submit. Correct. How did they become healthy? How did they become healthy? Mm-hmm. Mm. They went out in the sun and bathed in the water, in the river, I mean. Let's try to see if we got it right. Correct. Next, what did the family claim as their wealth? What did the family claim as their wealth? Laughter was their only wealth. Let's try to see if we got it right. Very good. Let's continue. As time went on, the rich man's children became thin and anemic, while we grew even more robust and full of fire. Our faces were bright and rosy, but theirs were pale and sad. One morning, a policeman from the Presidencia came to our house with a sealed paper. The rich man had filed a complaint against us. When the day came for us to appear in court, Father brushed his old army uniform. We were the first to arrive. Father sat on a chair in the center of the courtroom. The mother occupied a chair by the door. We children sat on a long bench by the wall. And let's stop and then reflect. Compare the children of the rich man and the children of the poor man. Compare the children of the rich man and the children of the poor man. Mhm. The rich man's children were thin and anemic, while the poor man's children were robust and full of fire or healthy. Let's try to check if we got it right. Let's try to check. Mhm. The rich man's children were thin and anemic. Okay, so I think there's an error with the quiz is. No, so no. Instead of having this one, the word man's, you have it there, man and hashtag 39. But our answer is correct. What was the letter from the Presidencia about? Mm-hmm. Um, the rich man filed a complaint against the father. The rich man filed a complaint against the father. Let's try to see if we got it right. Okay, it's correct. And then let's continue. The rich man arrived. He had grown old and feeble. His face was scarred with deep lines. With him was his young lawyer. Spectators came in and almost filled the chairs. The judge entered the room and sat on a high chair. We stood up in a hurry and sat down again. After the courtroom preliminaries, the judge looked at the father. "Do you have a lawyer?" he asked. "I don't need a lawyer, judge," he said. "Proceed," said the judge. The rich man's lawyer jumped and pointed his finger at the father. "Do you or do you not agree that you have been stealing the spirit of food of the complainant's wealth and food?" "I do not," father said. "Do you or do you not agree that you and your family hang outside your windows and inhale the heavenly spirit of the food?" "I agree," said father. "How do you account for that?" Father got up and paced around, scratching his head thoughtfully. Then he said, "I would like to see the children of the complainant, judge." "Bring the children of the complainant." They came shyly. The spectators covered their mouths with their hands. They were so amazed to see the children so thin and pale. The children walked slowly to a bench and sat down without looking up. Okay, let's stop and then reflect. How did the rich man look like when he appeared in the courtroom? How did the rich man look like when he appeared in the courtroom? Mm-hmm. The rich man had grown old, feeble, and his face was scarred with deep lines. The rich man had grown old, feeble, and his face was scarred with deep lines. Correct. Why do you think the spectators were amazed upon seeing the children of the rich man? Why do you think the spectators were amazed upon seeing the children of the rich man? Mm-hmm. The children were pale and thin. Pale and thin. Correct. And let's continue. Finally, he said, I should like to cross examine the complainant. Proceed. Do you claim that we stole the spirit of your wealth and became a laughing family while yours became morose and sad? Father asked. Yes. Then we are going to pay you right now, Father said. He walked over to where we children were sitting on a bench and took my straw hat off my lap and began filling it up with the centavo pieces that he took out from his pockets. He went to Mother, who added a fistful of silver coins. My brothers threw in their small change. May I walk to the room across the hall and stay there for a minute, Judge? Father asked. As you wish. Thank you, Father said. He strode into the other room with the hat in his hands. It was almost full of coins. The doors of both rooms were wide open. Are you ready? Father called. Proceed, the judge said. The sweet tinkle of coins carried beautifully into the room. The spectators turned their faces toward the sound with wonder. Father came back and stood before the complainant. Did you hear it? He asked. Hear what? The man asked. The spirit of the money when I shook this hat. He asked. Yes. Then you are paid, Father said. The rich man opened his mouth to speak and fell to the floor without a sound. And let's stop and reflect. What did the father want to convey when he shook the hat with the coins in it? What did the father want to convey when he shook the hat with the coins in it? Hmm. By the sound, by the sound of the tinkling coins, the he would pay the rich man with the spirit of the coins. With the sound of the tinkling coins, he would pay the rich man with the spirit of the coins. Let's try to see if we got it right. Okay, it's correct. And next question. What did he mean by saying then you are paid? What did he mean by saying then you are paid? Okay. Okay. He counteracted the man's claim of stealing the spirit of his wealth and food by paying the rich man with the sound of the coins. Let's try to see if we got it right. Again. He counteracted the rich man's claim of stealing the spirit of his wealth and food by paying the rich man with the sound of the coins. Okay, so another error coming from. Okay, the quiz is that man and hashtag 39. Okay, so the comma and s. But our answer is correct. And lastly, the lawyer rushed to his aid. The judge pounded his gravel. Case dismissed, he said. Father strutted around the courtroom. The judge even came down to his high chair to shake hands with him. You like to hear my family laugh, Judge? Father asked. Why not? Did you hear that, children? Father said. My sister started it. The rest of us followed them, and soon the spectators were laughing with us, holding their bellies and bending over the chairs. And the laughter of the judge was the loudest of all. This story tells us to never let poverty be your weakness. And that ends our session. Hope that you've learned something today. And thank you so much for listening. And I'll see you on our virtual class. Bye.